Breaking news that shocked millions. Jonathan Osteen, the famous pastor's son from Lakewood Church, was suddenly removed from his position. But what really happened behind closed doors? Was it a major scandal, a secret disagreement, or something nobody expected? In this video, we're revealing everything the media didn't tell you. From hidden conflicts to shocking truth, discover why this church family went through the biggest crisis ever. Stay until the end because the real story is way crazier than you think. Watch now. So listen, something very big happened at Lakewood Church. Jonathan Osteen, he is the son of Joel Osteen, who is a very famous pastor. Joel Osteen is known all over the world. His church is huge, very big, like thousands and thousands of people come there. But one day, something bad happened to Jonathan. He was removed from the church. Removed means he had to leave his job. This news spread everywhere on the internet. People were shocked. They could not believe it. Jonathan was like the golden boy of the church, you know? Everyone thought he would take over his father's job one day. But then suddenly, boom! He is gone. Nobody expected this to happen so fast. What made this even more crazy was that nobody told the real reason at first. The church leaders did not say exactly why Jonathan was removed. This made people very curious and suspicious. People started asking questions. What happened? Why did they kick him out? Was it because of money? Was it because of bad behavior? Nobody knew the real answer. The church is worth billions of dollars. Billions! That is a lot of money. So when something happens there, people pay attention. News channels started talking about it. Social media went crazy. Everyone wanted to know the truth. But the truth was hidden. The family did not want to talk about it. Jonathan is not just any person. He is the son of one of the most powerful religious leaders in America. His father Joel Osteen has churches, television shows, and books. He is famous everywhere. So when his son was removed from the church, it was like a huge bomb exploded. The whole religious world was watching. People in the church started talking to each other. They were confused and worried. Some people said maybe Jonathan did something wrong. Some people said maybe there was a disagreement with his father. Some people thought maybe he wanted to do something different. Nobody really knew what was true. Everything was a mystery. The timing was also very strange. It happened suddenly without any warning. One day Jonathan was there, working at the church, doing his job. The next day, he was out. This kind of thing does not usually happen so fast unless something very serious happened. Something that could not wait. Churches are supposed to be places of peace and love. But this situation showed that even big churches have big problems. They have conflicts just like regular families. They have disagreements about money, power, and control. When something like this happens in a big church, it affects thousands of people. Jonathan's removal also raised questions about how the church was run. People started wondering if everything was okay. They started wondering if the church leaders were honest. They wanted to know if there was corruption or bad things happening behind the scenes. The trust was broken, at least for some people. This chapter in Lakewood Church's history was one of the darkest. Nobody wanted this to happen. The church wanted to keep its good reputation. The family wanted to keep their image clean. But sometimes, things go wrong and you cannot hide them. The truth eventually comes out, no matter how hard you try to keep it secret. To understand what happened to Jonathan, you need to know how Lakewood Church really works. It is not just a normal church. It is a business, a very big business. The church has millions of dollars. It has television channels, radio stations, and a huge building where people pray and listen to sermons. A sermon is a talk about religion and God. Joel Osteen is the head of everything. He is the pastor, the leader, the decision-maker. When Joel says something, people listen. He is like a king in his church. Everyone respects him because he is powerful and famous. But power like this can be dangerous. When one person has all the power, sometimes bad things can happen. Jonathan is Joel's son. Because he is the son of the leader, people thought he would get special treatment. And he did. He was given important jobs in the church. He was involved in decision-making. He had access to money and resources. He was being trained to take over the church one day. This is what many people believed. But here is the problem. Just because someone is your son does not mean they should have so much power. This is a rule that many organizations follow. They say you should not give big jobs to family members without earning it first. But Lakewood Church did not follow this rule. Jonathan got important positions because of his last name, not because he worked hard for it. This created problems inside the church. Other workers and leaders felt angry. They thought, why does Jonathan get special jobs? What makes him so special? Many people had worked at the church for years and years. They had proved themselves. They had shown their skills. But Jonathan was being treated like he was better than everyone else. The church structure was also very secretive. Nobody knew exactly how money was being used. Nobody knew what was happening in the top levels of management. The church did not share information with regular people. This is called opacity. When organizations are not transparent, people get suspicious. People think maybe something wrong is happening. Joel Osteen controls the money. He controls the buildings. He controls the staff. He controls what people hear in sermons. He controls the image of the church. With this much power, he can do whatever he wants. And sometimes, people with this much power become corrupt. They start thinking about themselves instead of other people. Jonathan was growing up in this world of power and money. He saw his father make big decisions. He saw how much respect people gave his father. He saw how much money the church made. This must have affected him. Growing up with too much power and money can change a person. It can make them think they are better than others. There were rumors that Jonathan wanted to change things. Maybe he wanted more power. Maybe he wanted to do things differently than his father. Maybe he had different ideas about how the church should work. When a young person wants to change things in a family business, it creates conflict. The older generation wants to keep things the same. The younger generation wants to try new things. Some people who worked at the church said the atmosphere was tense. People were nervous. People were careful about what they said. People were worried about losing their jobs. This is what happens when there is no trust. When people do not trust their leaders, the whole organization becomes unhealthy and sad. The power structure at Lakewood Church was like a pyramid. Joel was at the very top. Jonathan was near the top because he was the son. Everyone else was below them. This kind of structure can work for a while, but eventually it causes problems. People at the bottom feel ignored. People in the middle feel stuck. Only people at the top feel happy. Jonathan Osteen was not like other kids. He grew up in a church, surrounded by thousands of people who loved his father. Everyone knew his name. Everyone knew his face. Everywhere he went, people wanted to talk to him, take pictures with him, and ask for blessings. This kind of life is very different from a normal life. Being the son of a famous pastor comes with big responsibilities. People expected Jonathan to be perfect. They expected him to be good all the time, to never make mistakes, to be like a role model. But Jonathan was just a regular human being. He had problems like everyone else. He had doubts, fears, and struggles. But he could not show these things to people because everyone was watching him. As Jonathan grew older, he started to feel the pressure more and more. The church was huge. The money was huge. The expectations were huge. His father Joel was a legend. How could Jonathan ever be as great as his father? This is a very hard question for a young person to answer. Many people who have famous parents struggle with this same problem. Jonathan wanted to prove himself. He wanted to show that he was not just the pastor's son. He wanted to show that he was his own person with his own talents and ideas. But in a church like Lakewood, it is very difficult to be your own person. Everything is controlled. Everything is connected to the church and to his father. Some insiders said that Jonathan had conflicts with his father about the direction of the church. Joel Osteen preaches a message called prosperity gospel. This means he teaches that God wants people to be rich and successful and happy. This is a very popular message, and it makes people feel good. But some people say this message is wrong. They say the real teachings of God are different. Jonathan might have disagreed with this message. He might have wanted to teach something different. He might have wanted to focus more on helping poor people and fighting against injustice. If this is true, then he and his father would have had serious disagreements. When a father and son disagree about something so important, it creates big problems. There were also rumors about Jonathan's personal life. Some people said he was struggling with personal issues. Some people said he was going through a difficult time. Some people said he was not happy with how the church was being run. But Jonathan never publicly talked about these things. He kept everything private and secret. Growing up in the spotlight can be very damaging to a young person's mental health. Jonathan probably felt lonely even though he was surrounded by thousands of people. He probably felt pressured to be perfect all the time. He probably felt like he could not trust anyone because everyone wanted something from him. These are heavy burdens for a young person to carry. The church expected Jonathan to follow in his father's footsteps. But maybe Jonathan did not want to do that. Maybe he wanted to do something completely different with his life. Maybe he wanted to travel, or study, or work in a different field. But the church and his family had other plans. They wanted him to stay and take over the business. Jonathan was trapped between two worlds. On one side was his family and the church that gave him everything. On the other side was his own dreams and desires. He wanted to make his own choices, but the expectations were too strong. The pressure was too heavy. Something had to give. Something had to break. People who knew Jonathan said he was a good person. He was kind and smart and caring. But he was also a person who was suffering in silence. Nobody knew exactly what was happening inside his mind. Nobody knew what secrets he was keeping. But something was definitely wrong. The signs were there, but people did not want to see them. Money is always at the center of big problems. Lakewood Church makes enormous amounts of money. Every single week, people give money to the church. This is called tithing. People believe that giving money to the church is part of their religious duty. So they give and give and give. The church collects millions and millions of dollars every year. Where does all this money go? This is a very good question. The church says it uses the money for good things. They say they help poor people. They say they run programs. They say they pay workers. They say they maintain the big building. But people do not know exactly where every single dollar goes. The church does not share detailed financial reports with everyone. This lack of transparency created suspicion. People started asking questions. Some people said maybe the church leaders were keeping money for themselves. Some people said maybe the money was being used for things that were not religious. Some people said maybe there was corruption happening. These are serious accusations, and they made people very worried and angry. Joel Osteen himself has been criticized many times about money. People have asked him, "Why do you live in such a big, expensive house? Why do you have so many cars? Why do you wear expensive clothes?" Joel has responded by saying that he earned this money through his books and television shows, not from church money. But many people do not believe him. They think he is hiding the truth. Jonathan might have learned about financial problems or corruption at the church. Maybe he discovered something that shocked him. Maybe he found out that money was being used in wrong ways. Maybe he realized that the church was not being honest with people. If Jonathan discovered these things, he would have faced a terrible choice. Should he speak up and risk his family's reputation? Or should he stay quiet and let the wrong things continue? Speaking up against your father's organization is very difficult. It takes courage. It takes strength. It means you are willing to lose everything. You are willing to be attacked, criticized, and rejected by your family. You are willing to become an enemy to the people you love. Very few young people have this kind of courage. Some people believe that Jonathan did speak up. They believe that Jonathan raised questions about how money was being used. They believe that this is why his father removed him from the church. Joel could not allow his son to damage the reputation of the church and his own reputation. So he made a choice to kick Jonathan out and silence him. The financial situation at Lakewood Church is murky and unclear. The church is registered as a non-profit organization, which means it should not make profit. But somehow, Joel Osteen has become very rich. How did this happen if the church is non-profit? This is a mystery that nobody can explain clearly. There have been investigations into the church's finances. Government agencies have looked at the church's money. But the church has powerful lawyers and powerful friends. The investigations do not always result in real answers. The church protects itself. It hides information. It makes problems disappear. If Jonathan discovered financial wrongdoing, it would explain why he was removed so quickly and so harshly. The church would need to silence him. The church would need to make sure he could not tell people the truth. Kicking him out and cutting him off from the church would accomplish this goal. It would make Jonathan an outsider. It would make people less likely to believe him if he spoke up. Money problems can destroy families and organizations. When people do not know where money is going, they lose trust. When leaders use money for personal gain instead of helping others, it is wrong. And when someone like Jonathan tries to expose this wrongdoing, they face serious consequences. This is the reality of how powerful organizations protect themselves. This situation is complicated because it involves both family and religion. These are two of the most important things in a person's life. When there is a conflict between family and doing the right thing, a person has to make a very hard choice. Jonathan faced this exact situation. On one side, there is his father Joel Osteen. Joel is not just a father. He is also Jonathan's boss, his mentor, and his spiritual leader. Joel gave Jonathan everything. He gave him a life of privilege, education, and opportunity. He gave him a position of power in the church. He gave him respect and status. Jonathan owes his father a lot. This is what family means. But on the other side, there is the truth. If Jonathan believed that something wrong was happening at the church, he had a moral responsibility to speak up. He had a duty to God and to the people in the church to tell them the truth. This is also an important value. Telling the truth is more important than loyalty to family. At least, this is what many people believe. So Jonathan had to choose. Do I stay loyal to my father and my family? Or do I tell the truth and risk everything? This is not an easy choice. In fact, it is one of the hardest choices a person can make in their entire life. Many people in Jonathan's situation would choose to stay quiet. It is safer. It is easier. You get to keep your family and your money and your position. But maybe Jonathan chose differently. Maybe Jonathan chose to speak up. Maybe he went to his father and said, "Dad, I have questions about how we are running this church. I have concerns about how money is being used. I think we need to change things." If Jonathan said this, his father probably got very angry. Joel would see this as betrayal. Joel would think his own son was attacking him. From Joel's perspective, Jonathan is ungrateful. Jonathan has been given everything. He has had every advantage. And now he is trying to destroy his father's legacy? This is how Joel might have seen it. This is why Joel might have decided to remove Jonathan from the church. It was not about love anymore. It was about protecting his empire. From Jonathan's perspective, he was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to help the church become more honest and more ethical. He was trying to protect the people who give money to the church. He was trying to follow the real teachings of God, which are about honesty and justice and love for others. If this is true, then Jonathan is a hero, not a traitor. People who support Joel say that Jonathan was wrong to challenge his father publicly. They say that Jonathan should have respected his father's authority. They say that Jonathan should have been grateful for everything his father gave him. They say that loyalty to family is more important than anything else. People who support Jonathan say that Joel was wrong to remove him. They say that telling the truth is always right, no matter what the consequences are. They say that a real father would listen to his son's concerns and try to fix problems. They say that Joel's reaction shows that he cares more about his image than about doing what is right. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Maybe Jonathan was right about some things. Maybe Joel was right about some things. Maybe both of them made mistakes. Maybe both of them have some blame in this situation. Family conflicts are rarely simple. They are usually very complicated. But one thing is clear. When someone inside a powerful organization speaks up about problems, that person usually pays a heavy price. Speaking up against people with power is dangerous. It takes courage. And when the person with power is your own father, the price becomes even higher. You lose your job. You lose your position. You might lose your family. This is a very big price to pay. The mainstream media has a complicated relationship with powerful religious organizations like Lakewood Church. The media is supposed to report the truth and expose wrongdoing. But sometimes, the media is afraid to challenge powerful people and powerful institutions. This is especially true with religious organizations because religion is very sensitive and personal to people. When Jonathan was removed from Lakewood Church, the major news channels did not report the full story. They reported that he was removed, but they did not investigate why. They did not ask tough questions. They did not try to uncover the truth. Instead, they just reported what the church said. This is called lazy journalism. Real journalists are supposed to dig deeper and find the real story. Why did the media not do its job? There are several reasons. First, Lakewood Church is very powerful. The church has money and influence. The church has connections to important politicians and business people. If the media reports negative stories about the church can use its power to punish the media. This makes media companies afraid to report the truth. Second, religion is a protected topic in America. Many people believe that religion should not be criticized. If the media criticizes a religious organization, some people will say the media is anti-religion. Some people will say the media is attacking people's faith. This makes media companies nervous. They do not want to seem like they are against religion. Third, Joel Osteen is very popular. He has written many books. He has a famous television show. He has millions of followers. Many people love Joel Osteen and believe in his message. If the media reports negative stories about Joel, these fans will be very angry. They will attack the media on social networks. They will boycott the media company. This creates problems for the media. So the media stayed quiet. The media did not investigate. The media did not ask tough questions. The media did not report what was really happening. This is a failure of the media. This is a failure of journalism. When the media fails to do its job, the truth stays hidden. People do not know what is really happening. They only know what powerful people want them to know. There were rumors and stories shared on social media and YouTube. Independent creators and journalists tried to report the truth. They asked questions that the mainstream media would not ask. They investigated the situation more deeply. They talked to people who worked at the church. They tried to find out what really happened to Jonathan. But these independent sources do not have the same reach as mainstream media. Most people do not watch independent YouTube channels. Most people watch mainstream television and read mainstream newspapers. So the truth that independent journalists uncovered did not reach most people. The mainstream version of the story dominated, even though it was incomplete and not fully accurate. This is a problem with our media system. When mainstream media refuses to report the truth, only people who actively search for the truth can find it. Regular people who just watch the news do not learn what is really happening. They are left in the dark. They only know what powerful organizations want them to know. The church also used public relations experts to manage its image. Public relations experts are people whose job is to make organizations look good, even if that organization has problems. These experts are very skilled at controlling information. They tell the media what to report and what not to report. They create stories that make the church look good. They hide stories that make the church look bad. Jonathan's story is an example of how powerful organizations control information. The church controlled what the media reported. The church controlled what people learned. The church prevented the full truth from coming out. This is manipulation. This is not honest. This is not how things should work in a free society. Over the years, many people have made serious accusations against Lakewood Church. They say the church behaves like a cult. A cult is a religious group that uses manipulation and control to keep people under power. Cults are very dangerous. They can destroy people's lives. They can damage families. They can take people's money and make them suffer. What makes something a cult? There are several signs. First, a cult has a leader who claims to have special power or special knowledge. The leader demands total obedience and loyalty. People in the cult are not allowed to question the leader or criticize the leader. Second, a cult uses fear and guilt to control people. People are afraid of what will happen if they leave. People feel guilty if they do not follow all the rules. Third, a cult isolates people from the outside world. People are discouraged from talking to people outside the cult. People are encouraged to spend all their time with the cult. Fourth, a cult uses money to control people. The cult takes people's money through donations. The cult makes people feel like they must give money or something bad will happen. Fifth, a cult uses manipulation and mind control techniques. The cult repeats the same messages over and over. The cult teaches people to stop thinking for themselves. People in cults start to believe things that are not true because they are told to believe them. Does Lakewood Church show these signs? Some people say yes. Some people say the church is not quite as extreme as some cults, but it has many cult-like characteristics. The church has a powerful leader in Joel Osteen. People are discouraged from questioning him. People are encouraged to give money to the church. People who work at the church are isolated from the outside world. They spend all their time at the church. They live and work and worship at the church. This is very cult-like. Former members of Lakewood Church have spoken out about their experiences. They say they were manipulated. They say they were controlled. They say they felt trapped. They say they gave the church money even though they could not afford it. They say they were told that if they left the church, bad things would happen to them. These are classic cult tactics. These are ways that cults keep people under control. Jonathan might have realized that his father's church was behaving like a cult. This realization could have shocked him. This could have made him want to leave and expose the truth. If Jonathan started speaking about cult-like behaviors, this would have been a direct threat to the church's image and power. Joel would have needed to silence him immediately. Removing Jonathan from the church and cutting him off from the organization would accomplish this goal. The cult accusations are very serious. If they are true, then Lakewood Church is doing terrible things to people. The church would be hurting people emotionally and financially. The church would be destroying families. The church would be keeping people trapped in a system of control and fear. This is evil. This is wrong. This is something that must be exposed and stopped. But the church denies these accusations. The church says it is not a cult. The church says it is a legitimate religious organization. The church says that people are free to leave if they want to. The church says that the accusations are lies told by angry people who have their own problems. The church uses its power and influence to protect itself from these accusations. The question of whether Lakewood Church is a cult or not is very important. If it is a cult, then many people are being hurt and exploited. If it is not a cult, then the accusations are unfair and wrong. Jonathan's removal from the church might be connected to these cult accusations. Maybe Jonathan wanted to protect people from cult-like control. Maybe this is why he was removed. Jonathan Osteen has not said very much publicly about what happened. He has been quiet. He has not given many interviews. He has not shared his side of the story in detail. This silence is interesting. Could mean many things. Maybe he is afraid. Maybe he is hurt. Maybe he is planning something. Maybe he does not want to hurt his family further. Nobody really knows why he has chosen to stay quiet. But Jonathan has said a few things in public. He has posted some messages on social media. He has given a few brief interviews. From these limited statements, we can get some idea of what he is thinking and feeling. He has said that he loves his family. He has said that he respects his father. He has said that he is trying to move forward with his life. He has said that he is learning and growing from this experience. In one interview, Jonathan said that he wanted to do things differently than his father. He said that he had different ideas about how to run a church. He said that he wanted to focus more on helping poor people and less on making money. He said that he wanted to be more transparent and honest. He said that he wanted to change the culture of the church. These are important statements. They show that Jonathan and his father had real disagreements about values and direction. Jonathan also hinted that there were conflicts within the church leadership. He said that not everyone agreed with how things were being done. He said that there were people inside the church who wanted change. He said that there were tensions and disagreements. But he did not go into specific details. He did not name names. He did not accuse specific people of wrongdoing. He kept his criticism general and vague. This careful approach makes sense. If Jonathan spoke too directly against his father and the church, he could face legal problems. The church could sue him for defamation. Defamation means saying things that damage someone's reputation. The church could use its lawyers and money to crush Jonathan in court. So Jonathan has to be very careful about what he says. He has to protect himself while also trying to speak the truth. Jonathan has also talked about his personal struggles. He has said that he was going through a difficult time. He has said that he was dealing with doubts and questions. He has said that he was trying to figure out who he really was and what he really believed. These statements show that Jonathan was suffering. He was not the golden boy that everyone thought he was. He had real problems and real pain. Some people have criticized Jonathan for not speaking out more boldly. They say he should tell everything he knows about the church. They say he should expose the wrongdoing. They say he should stand up to his father. But Jonathan seems to be taking a more cautious approach. Maybe he is still hoping for reconciliation with his family. Maybe he is still hoping that things will improve. Maybe he is protecting himself until he is in a stronger position. Jonathan has also talked about moving on with his life. He has said that he is focusing on his own projects and goals. He has said that he is trying to build his own path that is separate from the church. He has said that he is learning who Jonathan Osteen really is, apart from being the pastor's son. This is healthy thinking. This is what a person should do when they leave a controlling environment. Some sources close to Jonathan have said that he is planning to write a book about his experiences. A book would be a way for Jonathan to tell his full story without worrying as much about legal problems. A book would allow him to explain everything from his perspective. A book would be his way of speaking truth about what really happened. If this is true, then we may finally hear the complete story from Jonathan himself.